Welcome to We Virginians, a conversation about public policy in the Commonwealth. My name is Marisa Porto. I'm executive in residence at Hampton University, and I am also a longtime publisher and editor in Virginia. Today, we are here to talk about the aftermath of COVID as it relates to workforce development in Virginia. And our guests today are Shawn Avery, the president and CEO of Hampton Roads Workforce Development Council, and McCray, the associate vice chancellor for programs at Virginia Community College Network. Thank you all for coming, and I appreciate your taking the time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me today.
Let's get started. We'll ask a scene setter question. How has workforce development and your programs, how have they been affected by the pandemic? And we'll start, I think, at a statewide level. So perhaps, Mr. McCray, you can start with us.
Sure. So from a college's standpoint, we've had to make a decision about how to continue to develop a qualified pipeline of workers for our Virginia partners, who are our business partners, right? We have been accustomed to people having face-to-face training and education and the like. So on a dime, we had to shift that and figure out how can we continue to deliver quality education and training such that we know students who go through our colleges are ready to go out and earn and be prepared for the skills of what is the new normal. And so we've been very creative in how we deliver what was previously hands-on training, labs and the like. All of those things have had to be reimagined, working through faculty and staff and having statewide discussions around how do we continue to meet our mission and our goals in preparing the workforce, because the community college system sees itself as exactly that, an avenue for those Virginians to enroll in and support and be prepared for 21st century work skills.
Mr. Avery, do you have anything to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. What we've really seen since COVID came into being is that this has really switched from a employee type of economy to an employer economy. Before COVID, unemployment rates were in the low 2s, 3s, in some communities 4s, and it was really hard for an employer to find a skilled worker. And now it's completely flipped. There's a number of individuals that are in the workforce and looking for jobs, and now we're trying to make those connections and get those individuals who have been impacted by COVID, which is quite a bit. We're in record unemployment rates, and really get them connected up with these opportunities that are available. So we're having to rethink the whole way we do our programs. Like Dr. McCray mentioned, the schools have had to rethink the way they do their training, which is our primary mechanism for getting individuals the skills they need. So we're very much engaged with the community college system and the K-12 and four-year institutions to figure out how we're going to provide those skill sets that are still in much demand by our employers in the region. On the flip side, we're really trying to figure out how do we reach those individuals that have been impacted. Whereas before COVID, they could come into any one of our Virginia Career Work Centers and speak with one of our staff members. And since COVID, we, just like everybody else, have had to close our doors. We are not open to the public. We're starting the process right now, but it's a tough go. We were seeing 12,000 plus individuals a year through our centers, and now we're down to 0. And so as we reopen, and why we were closed, we're rethinking the whole way we do stuff, from virtual workshops to scheduling virtually to doing phone interviews and just rethinking everything. And so it's really been a learning experience for us, and we're really probably going to take a lot of this and continue on as we move forward. But COVID has really brought us into a new realm of workforce development that many of us just haven't seen before.
Interesting. Let's talk a little bit about unemployment. Dr. McCray, can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing at the state level in the unemployment realm?
So, no different than what all other Virginians in the nation, we mirror those same kinds of unemployment numbers. And so, there are a number of sectors that are suffering more from the COVID-19 impact than others. For example, hospitality is really struggling right now. Those people are unemployed. So we have to start to think about, as a community college system and in partnership, the Hampton Roads Workforce Development, how do we leverage our resources to prepare a new skill, prepare those individuals who've been displaced as a result of COVID, with new set of skills that can meet the upcoming job demands. And so there are so many of those individuals, as Shawn said earlier, who, as a result of things flipping, and now we're having to figure out a way to train those people. We've got an increased demand of individuals who need those skill sets, who need paychecks not today. I mean, not a year from now. They need it today, tomorrow. And so really leveraging these kinds of partnerships with our workforce investment and the like to figure out a way to get those people into employment quickly through short-term training, but to not stop there. Allow that short-term training to be connected to education levels, achievements beyond just the credential, continuous learning and training to build their careers and to get them back to where they were pre-COVID and to expand in their potential, with their work potential.
We've seen some health disparities in the COVID-19 conversation. I wonder, and I've been reading a lot about small businesses and how they've been affected by it, and it feels like that same trend in disparities would be seen in the workforce Virginia today. Any thoughts about that in particular?
So yes, I think again, those same challenges exist across not just sectors, but also demographics, right? And so when we start to think about, our elderly population who are still in the workforce, conditions and the like, what skill sets do they have to have in order to maintain a level of employment, right? There is also what is unfortunately often connected to the older section of our population is their abilities to leverage technology to do jobs become a challenge. So in many cases, you find yourself having to reteach or to teach those who've been doing things a certain way for 20, 25 years to now start to do their jobs leveraging technology. So some basic kinds of education and training just for them to become functional in this new normal. We're seeing those trends as a result of underlying health conditions. There are also those connections to those who have medical challenges and cannot be in high populated environments under COVID-19. So how do we then train those and educate those individuals in a way that they can continue to be functional from an employment standpoint, but at the same time practice that safely. So yes, we have to think about all of those things, not just in the way we deliver education, but to whom we are preparing to go out and earn employment. And
I'd like to add on to that as well, because one of the things that we're very concerned with here at the Hampton Roads Workforce Council as we're starting to work with those individuals to get them into the workforce. As I mentioned earlier, before COVID, we were in the 2 to 3% unemployment rate. But there's always that, even with those numbers, there's always those individuals who are underemployed or weren't being counted in the workforce. And really, we were honing in on programs to really meet those low to moderate income individuals, get them into the workforce. And now that we're at double digits, our concern is we don't lose those individuals again into the system. The individuals who had a job and was making a good salary, now they're unemployed, they're getting back into the workforce, they're trying to find a job. And we really want to make sure that we stay focused on those low to moderate income individuals who were on the fringes of the workforce system before, and now our concern is that with so many people trying to access the services, they're going to even get lost again in the system. And so working in partnership with our community college, our community-based partners like the Urban League and United Way and Food Bank, we need to make sure that we continue to try to target individuals who may have not been in the system before. And now it's even worse with so many other people in the system. We just don't want them to get discouraged. So that's just one area that I know we're going to be focusing on very heavily in the coming months.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, what is coming out of COVID-19 is that there's a demand for wraparound services as we begin to prepare individuals to re-enter the workforce and society. And so the partnering with our community organizations that can provide those wraparound services to help people transition back to employment. So it's not just the skill to do the work, but it's the wraparound services that support individuals who have to return to work as a result of COVID-19.
You talked a little bit about different industries being affected. I wonder if, as you're dealing with workforce development across the state, do you see any areas of industries that are growing because of what's happening with COVID-19? Is there any positives to come out of the workforce development space because of the pandemic?
Certainly, I will say that the IT and computer space is expanding as things have gone online. I think the other area that is expanding is those areas that are delivery type services, right? Amazon's deliveries, like challenge to even find enough people to meet this increased demand. So I would certainly say IT. I would certainly say those delivery kinds of home delivery services. And I think there's also great opportunity here for entrepreneurship. I think entrepreneurship has a great future, and it's always had a great future, right? So, but it is certainly more in demand now because people are having to rethink how they establish their careers, their livelihood, and the like. And what has come out of COVID, I think, is some really good creativity and imagination on how to get things done in the face of the challenges that exist under COVID-19. So yes, I think those are just to mention, those three, but we're finding others as we start to assess. So how do we move forward? How do we continue to function from a workforce preparation and a workforce standpoint, employment standpoint, under what may become the normal for the foreseeable future?
Mr. Avery, can you tell us in that space of entrepreneurship and the other positions or the other areas that might be growing, what it like on more on the ground where you're really seeing people whose stories you might be affected by? I mean, is there anything that those folks that you're doing in that space of entrepreneurship and the other spaces that Dr. McCray talked about?
Yeah, there's definitely entrepreneurship. People are while they have time off from their job, either been furloughed or laid off, they're looking at their dreams. I mean, they're luckily we've got some stimulus checks that are coming in that are helping with to cover some of the bills right now. And so it's given them the opportunity to say, you know what, maybe this is my time to see if I can do something that I've wanted to do for a while. So we're getting those calls and we're making those connections to the small business development centers and, again, our educational partners. We're also seeing a number of individuals who may have been laid off or furloughed starting to look at the industries that did not have those furloughs or layoffs. I'll just give one example, the shipbuilding, ship repair industry, which is huge here in Hampton Roads area. They never stopped. They're still building those ships. They're still repairing those subs in this region. And those are certain jobs in uncertain times. And so if COVID comes back in this fall, people are saying, well, I'm not sure I want to be in this line of work if I potentially could get laid off in a second or third wave. Maybe I need to get those skill sets that could put me into a job where my friend was in and he never got laid off. So we're starting to get those calls as well. Healthcare, while we've heard that there's been some layoffs, I think those are probably short term because of the ban on some types of surgeries. But as that starts to come back, I think healthcare again is going to be a prime area that individuals can get into, especially around things that are related to COVID-19. I'm going to forget the name of the words, but the contact tracing, looking for individuals who've been impacted by COVID, is going to be big in this area. And so we are seeing some opportunities. There are glimmers of hope in the economy. Transportation, logistics, which goes right back to what Corey mentioned about Amazon. A lot of things associated with the port are continuing to grow because we're moving products through this region and through the state. And so we do see a lot of that coming back, and we see it coming back strong, and we see that there's a lot of opportunities that are going to grow in those areas.
Can you tell us a little bit about, maybe if you've thought about it, what sort of public policy issues that are need to be addressed in the Commonwealth in the next session, whenever that is?
Right. Well, I'm going to take it at the local level, and it's probably going to be something that Corey is going to support, is that I know a lot of funds that were going to be directed towards skills training and education are being potentially redirected due to the economy being basically shut down for 3 months. And I hope we don't lose the long-term perspective of those type of programs, whereas yes, it may fix our budget in the short term, but in the long term, are we impacting the skills that we need in the economy? It was important 3 months ago. It still should be just as important now. And so from a policy perspective, I hope that our General Assembly and our governor continue to invest in education. There's the G3 program, Free Community College programs that are both an economic driver for the state and for our individuals in the Commonwealth. And those are areas that we need to continue to focus on from a policy perspective. They're more important now as the economy is trying to ramp back up. And so that would be definitely one area that I think we need to make sure that we continue to focus on. And Corey, I know you probably can add to that as well.
Yeah, certainly. To Shawn's point, I mean, very well stated. It is. We are approaching, 1 million people, I think, could be unemployed in the state. That said, those people are going to show up at the doorsteps of the community colleges. They're going to be looking for a way that they can be trained up and retrained to get the employment in those new high demand areas. Funding for the Fast Forward program, the G3 program, as Shawn talked about earlier, and the like, all those programs that are out there to really stand up and support a qualified workforce is going to be critical. So I could not have stated it better than what Shawn said earlier. There's going to be an influx of individuals, Virginians, who will need the support to go out and meet those requirements.
It sounds like there are already, there are already a lot of folks who are unemployed. So are you putting them at the doorstep in the spring next year? What you're expecting them in the summer?
Yeah. So colleges are starting to reopen slowly. We, as you know, are in phase 2 of the governor's reopening plan. That is where we are looking at those areas first that we can continue to do work remotely, do education remotely. For those that require hands-on, we are planning and starting to implement that plan with social distancing and following CDC guidelines and Virginia Department of Health guidelines. But we are starting with priority programs in career and technical education and workforce preparation, because we know that's where the demand is. So to your question, are they starting to show up? Not only are they starting to show up, but remember, we had to put some of them on pause in the middle of the training on March, when we went into COVID in early March, right? So they're coming back. And again, we are chomping at the bit to get them back onto our campuses and get them ready to get out and demonstrate the skills that they've learned in the community college system.
That's an interesting aspect of COVID because I know some community colleges around the state before COVID were struggling to get students to attend. So that's at least some sort of positive for community colleges to have the students back. Yes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about it. Has the Commonwealth, done anything to help? I was reading something about a workforce portal that will help people who are unemployed. Are there other programs out there like this that are going to help some folks who are unemployed?
So I think you're talking about the Virginia Wizard portal. And so, yes, that does exist, but then there are also, I talked about Fast Forward before. So what happens is that person who's interested in a Fast Forward program, which is a program that is basically performance-based, where students, if they enroll in a workforce training course, they can then have 2/3 of that paid by the state as long as they are successful in each of the performance measures. Those individuals get pointed to the community college that's delivering that kind of workforce preparation based on their zip code, right? That is critical. It is hugely supportive for those who may not be able to afford the full freight for workforce education and training. So the Fast Forward site, and of course Virginia Wizard and our veterans portal that we work, the system, community college system works very closely with Shawn and his colleagues across the state for that. Shawn, you may want to speak a little bit to that veterans portal.
Yeah, there's two portals that have actually that we have now. One that was just released this last week as well by the governor is the Virginia Career Works portal, which is really connecting all the centers that I had mentioned that have been unfortunately closed to the public. This is the online portal for that. And so we're very excited about that. Now individuals can access the services at home from their current portal. And they also can access support services as well. As Corey mentioned, there's also a portal that's directly targeted toward the veterans and transition service members in our region. Ours is called the Veterans Career Compass. The state also has through the Virginia Community College system, a veterans educational portal that you can also access as well. And so with all these virtual services, they're only becoming even more important now that somebody can't actually go to a center and access those services there. They can do it now from home or from their phone or any other type of activity. So yes, every one of those is just as important now, more than ever before.
Good stuff.
I think you're muted.
Muted.
Sorry. We have time for one more question, and I guess I was interested in hearing from you about what you thought the long-term effects of the pandemic would be on workforce development.
Well, I'll take it from a local, and then Corey, if you go from state. From a local level, at least from our organization, it's really going to be around how we deliver our services to the individuals. It's going to be a changing mindset. We're no longer going to be able to rely on our bricks and mortar facilities, but really on technology and getting out there into the community and keeping our pulse on what the needs are. And so we really see this as a whole new way of doing business. You know, the office setting is just not the way to do things nowadays when you can't get into the office. So for us, the way we do business is going to change. And then I think the economy, surprisingly, what this COVID has done, it's really brought a lot of partners together to focus on a common goal of getting our economy and getting our individuals through this. So I see that as a very positive. We were doing a lot of it before, but now we're working as a team. We have a common goal of restarting our economy, getting it going, meeting the needs of the business community, meeting the needs of the individuals. And I see that now if something happens to our economy, and it's not just in Hampton Roads that this is happening, it's happening in Richmond, Charlottesville, and throughout the state, that we're coming together to meet the common goal of what we need in the regions.
Yeah, and I would agree with Shawn. I think industries are going to have to reimagine what a workforce looks like. What the knowledge, skills, and abilities are going to be that will allow an individual to be functional as a worker. I think that, you know, your work days are going to look different. Work environments are going to look different. Automation is going to be increased, which means there's going to be a reskilling, if you will, of our workforce. And I think you're going to see a higher skilled, better prepared workforce in the Commonwealth and across the nation as a result of what COVID-19 has required us to the adjustment required to make.
That is a good place for us to stop. I thank you both for joining us and for sharing your insights. And thank you to all of those who are watching. If you have made it this far, we'd appreciate it if you give us a like on the video and subscribe to our channel. And more conversations are coming. And thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me.